Saw dudes, Briarbinds are the newest piece of exotic armor and focus on the Child of the Old Gods aspect. Essentially, Briarbinds make Void Souls last 55% longer. It also allows for the retrieval of Void Souls that have already been on the field, which can then be sent out again, and for the possession of multiple Void Souls, all of which are governed by their own internal timers. Today's build is focused on applying Weaken to hordes of enemies through the use of multiple Void Souls. Because Weaken increases the damage combatants take and makes their aim inaccurate, this build is fairly safe to run in high-end content. Also, if you haven't gotten it already, always try to get one from the Vex Strike Force activity on Neomuna. Let's get started with the build. Out of the three choices for the super, I chose to use Nova Bomb Cataclysm. I prefer this variant over the Vortex due to the tracking it possesses, making aiming an afterthought. The best rift for this build is Healing Rift since we will be using Child of the Old Gods as one of our aspects. The only melee ability on Voidlocks is Pocket Singularity, which tracks enemies, knocks them away, and applies volatile. The two options for the grenade are Vortex and Magnetic due to Chaos Accelerant. The two aspects as I already mentioned are Chaos Accelerant and Child of the Old Gods. Chaos Accelerant allows us to overcharge certain grenades. Vortex grenades receive a 70% increased radius and an increased burn duration of 4.2 seconds from 3.2. Magnetic grenades become a short-range blast that applies volatile, turning it into a great get-off move. Child of the Old Gods causes our rifts to spawn Void Souls. These little buddies create a 10-meter draining field after coming into contact with an enemy and weakening all inside. Because we are running Healing Rift, we will regen 3.5% of our grenade and melee energy every 1.4 seconds per enemy leeched. The fragments for the Grimace build are Echo of Harvest, Instability, Persistence, and Starvation. Harvest causes kills on weakened enemies to create an Orb of Power and a Void Breach. Instability makes our grenade kills grant volatile rounds to our Void weapons for 10 seconds. Persistence causes Void buffs like Devour to last 40% longer. And to top it all off, Echo of Starvation causes pick up an Orb of Power or Void Breach to grant Devour for 5 seconds. Now let's get down to the Grimace fit. For the helmet, I equipped Harmonic Siphon, Special Ammo Finder, and Heavy Ammo Finder. On the Briarbinds, I ran Impact Induction, Bolstering Detonation, and Font of Focus. For the fursuit, I chose to use Harmonic Reserves and 2 variable resistance mods. On Grimace's sneakers were Harmonic Scavenger, Insulation, and Void Weapon Surge. And lastly, on the Bond, I equipped Bomber, Reaper, and Time Dilation. I'm running 100 Resilience for this build because it can operate from almost any range and is required when going in. The next best stats to raise are Recovery for the lowered Rift cooldown, and Discipline for the additional grenade uptime. Since Font of Focus is being used, you only need to have 70 Discipline for it to max out. Grimace usually dispatches opponents with his signature shake, but weapons always spice it up a little. Weapon loadout 1 is my personal favorite at the moment. In the kinetic slot, I use Randy's throwing knife for the AoE damage that it provides via kinetic tremors. Hitting enemies caught in the weakened field from a Void Soul will take more damage and likely get killed by the tremors. In the energy slot, I opted to use Wave Splitter for the solid single target damage and the ability to stun overload champions through suppression. However, if you are a fan of purple balls, go for Ruinous Effigy. You can easily clear room by dunking a Transmutation Sphere in a weakened field. For the heavy slot, there are 2 options. I used Retrofit Escapade for the ridiculous boss DPS. However, if you don't have one, consider using Commemoration. It can be crafted with Subsistence and Killing Tally for even more ad clear, and its origin trait, Bury Inheritance, makes it so that we can regen ability energy for every instance of damage it deals. Weapon loadout 2 is a more fun alternative, at least to me. In the kinetic slot, I use Until Its Return, a strand shotgun that can be crafted with Cascade Point and Overflow for a mini 4th Horseman. In the energy slot, I use Graviton Lance. Combined with volatile rounds, it becomes an AoE beast, and it feels great to use ever since it received Turnabout and Vorpal Weapon. Finally, in the heavy slot, I ran the newest strand rocket launcher, Semiotician. I would craft mine with Field Prep and Explosive Light. Basic, I know. Let's go over the Grimace Shake game loop. Start with dropping a Rift, spawn a Void Soul, and tag a target to create a weakening field. Throw a grenade at the group to get a kill and cause Void weapons to get volatile rounds. Once the group is thinned out, move in to grab the soul before it expires and send it out again, repeating the process. If the Rift recharges while a Void Soul is already active, cast it and send it out to a different group. Continue building an army and dominate the world. Briarbinds pretty much cement Warlocks as the pet class. At first I was skeptical about them since Void Souls are usually overlooked, but I was pleasantly surprised by their performance. Thank you for watching and happy farming.